자, 포르자 호라이즌 4 브리티쉬 라이싱 그린 요 호라이즌 스토리를 쭉 오늘은 진행을 해보도록 할게요.
Great to see you. We're shooting a documentary about car culture in the UK and I need a second driver. You've made a name for yourself and it would be great to have you aboard. It's simple. You drive, I tell the story. Let's do it.
그냥 운전하면 되는 거예요? 하긴 뭐 운전 말고 뭐하니? 113보다 빠른 속도 유지할 것.
From Aston Martin to McLaren and Bentley, Great Britain is home to over a century of automotive excellence. I'm Rebecca Dawson. Welcome to British Racing Green, a documentary celebrating that history. The Aston Martin DB5 Vantage was the quintessential Grand Tourer of the 1960s, combining British engineering and Italian design.
오우 이게 이게 겨울이라서 미친듯이 미끄러져. 스노우 타이어 낀 거야 이거?
The Vantage featured side draft carburetors and a refined camshaft profile, capable of a blistering top speed of 162 miles an hour in 1964. The clean lines of Superleggera's bodywork, reclining seats and wool carpets created a car that was luxurious as well as
그냥 이 차가 좀 유난히 더 잘 미끄러지는 것 같은데. 아이고 왜 그러냐. 어차피 이거는 그냥 목적지까지 가기만 하면 될 것 같아요. 뭐 시간은 넉넉할 듯. 어차피 이걸로 별 주는 거 아니잖아 지금. 별점 주는 거 아니라서 뭐 적당히 가기만 하면 될 것 같습니다.
This car would form the basis for the DB range, with later cars improving on the design in many ways, but none would ever achieve the sheer iconic perfection of the Vantage.
In 100 meters, turn left.
For all of its beauty and engineering perfection, only 65 of these beautiful machines would ever be built. If you own one, you own a piece of British history.
In 200 meters, you will arrive at your destination.
다 왔다.
The silver DB5 would be immortalized in half a century of cinema. The classic Aston Martin.
Aston Martin.
But in 2016, a new DB was unveiled, heralding the dawn of Aston Martin's second century. The DB11 is the first production turbocharged Aston Martin. But is it a worthy successor to that legacy?
DB는 뭐예요? 드래곤볼이에요?
The short answer is yes. It's bold,
Oh.
responsive and agile, with perhaps the best GT chassis in the world. And listen to it.
아 이게 하필 눈길인데
Able to hit 60 miles an hour in 3.5 seconds, the DB11's 5.2-litre twin-turbo V12 boasts a top speed of over 200 miles an hour. The DB11 is not the fastest car in the world, but then it's not trying to be. It's sophisticated, effortless luxury. It's an Aston Martin.
어휴. 이거 속도 줄이려고 일부러 박은 거예요. 네, 속도 줄이려고. 네.
Channel air to create a virtual spoiler, providing downforce without compromising the
아, 음악 없으니까 엄청 허전하네. 근데
Brilliant.
스트리머 모드가 있길래 킨 건데 지금 음악이 없네요. 너무 허전해.
Most importantly, I think, the DB11 proves that Aston Martin is ready for another century of beautiful cars. And I can't wait.
세 개는 안 되고 두 개.
Beautiful as they are, Aston Martins are only one of many cars made in the United Kingdom. Let's see what else is out there.
아니 배경음악이 노래가 안 나니까 너무 허전한데. 너무 허전한데? 나는 뭐 스트리머 모드라길래 뭐 노래를 딴 걸로 대체를 해줄 줄 알았어. 아예 그냥 노래를 라디오를 싹 다 꺼버리셨네요. 노래 들을 거야. 또 이거 라디오가 하나밖에 안 되나 보다. 아, 스트리머 모드 라디오가 하나인가? 스트리머용 라디오가 하나만 있는 듯.
This is shaping up nicely. Time for a change of pace, though. At least at first. The next segment is about Land Rover.
Land
And
Rover.
we'll be starting out with the Type 3.
음악이 있으니까 훨씬 낫네. 훨씬. 뭐라도 있으니까 훨씬 낫네.
Land Rover, the British sports utility vehicle. But before that, they were actual utility vehicles. Solid, tough trucks, unstoppable over almost any terrain.
In 400 meters, turn left.
심지어 트로트라도 나오면은 좋은 것 같아.
Marks the point where that shift begins. And we'll be looking at what that meant.
운전할 때는 노래가 있어야 돼. 있고 없고가 엄청난 차이가 있어요. 정말로.
Land Rovers have taken on almost every task imaginable. They've been generators, tractors and ambulances. They've brought peace and carried medicines to disaster zones. They've even been buses. Over 500,000 Series 3s were built, and over 70% of those are still on the road today. They were extensively exported and built under license
느리다
abroad.
차가.
Belgium, South Africa, even Australia and New Zealand. With a robust chassis and signature Land Rover engineering, the Type 3 also marked the first time that buyers could choose interior options like seat box protectors and cubby boxes. That trend continued, and by 1982, Land Rover were offering the county spec Type 3. Leisure drivers could choose from such luxuries as all-cloth seats, soundproofing and tinted glass. The trend was increasingly clear, and the future of the Land Rover was starting to take shape. If you squinted, you could already see the shape of the first sports utility vehicle, the Range Rover. While the stock Type 3 would never be particularly fast uphill, there is almost no hill that it couldn't climb, or down for that matter, if you put a proper winch on it. In 1978, a Series 3 was custom built for Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. It only had 1,892 miles on the clock when it was auctioned into private hands. And it was in perfect condition. It would be. After all, she trained as a mechanic in the 1940s and will likely remain the only royal able to strip and rebuild an engine.
200 meters. You will arrive at your destination.
Along with the Range Rover, others would follow. Discovery, Defender, and the Freelander. Each a more sophisticated and enjoyable utility vehicle. But none of them were a replacement for the Type 3. They were a different kind of car. The Type 3 was arguably the first sports utility vehicle, an evolution of the design that would lead ultimately to this. The Bowler Nemesis, an off-road racing vehicle that turned into a production SUV, the Nemesis EXR.
폴로 네미시스.
It sports a
기술이야?
turbocharged 5-litre Land Rover Jaguar engine, crammed into a carbon fibre chassis with integral roll cage. It even has the grille, headlights and rear lights from a Range Rover.
안
You
돼.
want to see what the Type 3 would be like if it ever stopped doing important things? This is it. And it's beautiful.
여기 왔다 갔다 하는 거 좋네. 괜찮네 여기.
This is an all-terrain supercar. That's the only
몇 점
fair
나왔을까?
description for this. But that's what
18만
you
점.
get when you build an SUV with Land Rover DNA.
예. 기술 점수로 별 3개 받는 거는 되게 처음인가? 오랜만인가? 좋아요, 좋아요.
Telling you, you better come on down and get your Jaguar. I'm taking it.
Hope you're enjoying yourself. I know I am. It's great to be able to just focus on telling the story while someone else handles the driving for once. Let's get to the next one. This time, it's Lotus.
자동차 역사 듣기에 괜찮네요. 약간 교육용으로도 괜찮은 것 같아. 교육용.
Lotus Engineering Limited began as many stories in British engineering do. In an old barn. The first Lotus cars were offered as kits. You built them yourself. From 1962, they began to actually build the cars themselves. The Elan Sprint showed exactly what they intended to do. Built around a steel backbone with a fiberglass chassis, the Sprint weighed in at a meager 687 kilos parked on the
아이고.
curb. On the road, this translated into brilliant agility and fantastic performance. Designer Colin Chapman famously said, "Adding power makes you faster on the straights. Subtracting weight makes you faster everywhere." He knew what he was talking about.
Turn right. In 100 meters, turn left.
Widely hailed as one of the greatest sports cars of the 1960s, the Elan would be closely studied and emulated, inspiring such masterpieces as the Mazda MX-5. The Elan has all the energy, style, and enthusiasm you would expect. Bold, quick, and fun. So much so that they put it in the name. The Elan Sprint was a financial as well as an engineering success for Lotus, validating their approach to design and resulting in a whole family of light, agile roadsters. Which brings us to this, the Lotus Exige. It's heavier than the Elan, admittedly, but it's faster. Much, much faster.
Faster. Much faster.
Touch the pedal, the Exige responds with instant, relentless acceleration. As you'd expect.
그냥 드라이브인가?
With
와,
a
근데
0 to
시간이
60
되게
time
짧네.
of 3.8 seconds and a top speed of 170 before upgrades and tuning,
빨리
the
갑시다.
Exige is uncompromising. And there's no power steering, so you can really feel the road. A genuinely thrilling drive, and one that isn't afraid to demand you take it seriously.
200 meters, turn left. Turn left.
In one word, Lotus is about the experience. Uncompromising, challenging. This is a car that demands you drive it well. And when you do, you'll see what the fuss is all about.
히히히. 아이고 미안합니다.
In 400 meters, you will arrive at your destination.
아 까비다 약간 까비다.
And with rumored launches of 2 new cars in 2020, Lotus looks set to push
와,
the benchmark of the
0.936초.
experienced sports car well into the next century.
코너 하나만 제대로 돌았어도 추러스 시간인데.
Done much rallying? That's a joke. We've all seen what you've been up to. We're doing the next bit on location. You'll see why when you get there.
이번에는 내 차 타고 가네.
Turn around when it is safe to do so.
뭐 하는 거야? 어디가? 어디가? 운전 미숙이라. 네, 운전이 미숙해요, 제가. 어우.
In 400 meters, you will arrive at your destination.
와우. 다 왔어요, 어차피. 다 왔어, 다 왔어. 뭐야, 어디 비추니? 겨울에 운전하기 좋은 차가 아니야.
That most American of cars. But the Ford Escort, oh, that's British. And more than that, the Escort would become for many synonymous with Group B. In the 70s, Ford had embraced that destiny so firmly that they'd begun their own championships to find new drivers. Drivers for cars like the RS 1800.
RS.
This was a car
1800.
designed explicitly for rallying, with a powerful fuel-injected 1790cc Cosworth BDE engine. Homologation rules required that all cars entered into the group be production, so Ford built 200 of them.
아니, 길이 제대로 보이지가 않잖아. 이게 눈 덮여서. 어디가 도로고 어디가 도로가 아닌지가 안 보여요, 그분이.
The RS 1800 raced to victory after victory across the rallying world, on almost every continent and across every terrain type imaginable. This car was basically unbeatable. The RS 1800 brought home 17 World Rally Championship victories for Ford. So, of course, Ford set out to design a better one. The RS 200 Evolution was their answer. A purpose-built rally car designed to do one thing: win Group B.
RS 200.
With a 1.8 turbocharged Ford Cosworth BDT engine and all-wheel drive, the RS 200 had perhaps the best suspension platform of any car of its era. The chassis was fiberglass from Reliant, and the massive Ford parts bin was raided to give the car that iconic look. But while the car had potential, turbo lag at low RPM and a poor power-to-weight ratio meant that it never placed better than third. The end of Group B in the mid-80s meant the end of the RS200 as a rallying car. Fortunately, Ford built over 200 as part of the homologation requirements for Group B, so you can still find them, if you're lucky.
이건 별로 아깝지가 않네. 그다지 아깝지 않아 이건. 뭐야 못하는 거
I
이거.
really like this car. Not that I'd want to drive it for too long. Squeeze yourself in there and let's see just how fast you can make it go. Which won't be too fast. But hey, I could be surprised.
아 이게 자동차야?
The
너무 귀여워.
P50 has the dubious honor of being the smallest production car in the world.
너무 귀여워 이거 뭐야?
One-door microcar coupe, featuring a 42cc air-cooled engine capable of a heinous 38 miles an hour, and a handle so you can pick it up and carry it with you when you get to work. And keep in mind that this is the production version. The prototype had the single wheel at the front. Why
뭐야,
did you
이게?
think that was a good idea?
얼마까지 나오나요? 69.
In 2010, though, production restarted at Sutton in Ashfield. So, if you'd like to own the modern incarnation of this, I suppose you can.
이건 그냥 거저 주는데? 아 너무 귀엽다 근데 차가 구데기라 그렇지 귀엽다. 저 차 살 수 있으면 사고 싶네.
Hey there! How about a car with some actual legroom and some actual speed? This section's about what happened when McLaren decided to make a road car. You're going to enjoy this.
맥라렌.
The track and the road have very different requirements. For McLaren, that was a challenge they were more than willing to embrace. In 1988, they set out to create the finest sports car the world has ever seen. By 1993, they had achieved their goal, and the honestly fantastic F1 was the result. 106 would be built across all variants, and it remains one of the very best road cars ever made. The F1 has no turbocharger. That would have compromised the driving experience, increased complexity, and resulted in turbo lag. The F1 is a naturally aspirated supercar, one of the fastest in the world, in fact. Everything about this car is innovative, from the carbon fiber monocoque to the central driver position. McLaren threw the book away when they designed the F1. Then they wrote a better one. The F1's monocoque chassis is incredibly lightweight, only 100 kilos all told, which posed a significant challenge because carbon fiber and fiberglass aren't great insulators.
뭐로 가도 서울만 가면 된다.
McLaren lined the entire engine compartment with gold. McLaren's racing heritage is so deeply ingrained in this machine that when they took it to Le Mans in 1995 and faced off against purpose-built racing machines, they won. So, with something like the F1 to live up to, where do you go next? Well, you throw the book away again and write an even better one. The result is the McLaren P1, a hybrid electric sports car that stands head and shoulders above the F1. The P1 GTR will hit 60 miles an hour in 2.4 seconds. That's 0.7 seconds faster than the F1. That's an eternity for a supercar. The car's blistering performance is delivered by a twin-turbo V8, supplemented by a McLaren ECU electric motor and instant power assist system. And they do mean instant.
남은 시간이 중요한 게 아니라 이게 스피드가 중요하네요. 마지막에 막판 스피드가 중요한 것 같은데. 여기서 브레이크 밟으면 안 돼. 끝까지 그냥 가야 돼. 노 브레이크. 브레이크 노. 노 브레이크 노.
While the turbos build pressure, the electric motor drives the wheels. No turbo lag,
340, 340.
just torque. And because it's a hybrid, it has an all-electric range. Running on batteries alone, that's 6.2 miles. A bit more if you're going downhill.
마지막에 브레이크를 밟으면 안 돼요. 끝까지. 몇 번째지 이제? 몇 번을 했니? 6개를 했네요. 그러면 7번째.
I quite like sleeper cars. Did Alex ever tell you the story of what we got up to in Colorado? There was this sleeper car competition, you see. Let's just say no one was ready for the Sunbeam. Lotus never quite let go of the upgrade game. So in addition to building their own supercars, they upgraded cars from other marques too. The Lotus Carlton was one such aftermarket upgrade. Lotus took a respectable 4-door Vauxhall saloon and turned it into a supercar. From the outside, there are a few signs that this is something special. Wider wheel arches, that sort of thing. But under the
보기보다
bonnet,
빠른데?
that's where the magic starts.
생긴 건 그렇게 안 생겼는데 되게 빠르네. 생각보다. 300은 안 넘지만 이 정도면 뭐.
The engine block was reinforced and new crankshafts were forged by Opel and machined in Germany.
At the roundabout, take the third exit.
The tires were widened
저기로 돌아갈 거예요.
and the tire compound from the Lotus Esprit was used. To handle camber change issues, they put in the self-leveling suspension from the Opel Senator. The only upgrade they didn't put in was an electronic speed limiter. All of this resulted in the Lotus Carlton, designated Type 104 by Lotus. A 177 miles per hour supercar, masquerading as a 4-door saloon. Only 950 of these custom gems were built, and they've become something of a modern classic.
말이 너무 많아. 오대수야? 왜 이렇게 말이 많아?
The Lotus Carlton
제가라
was an
오대수.
example of how to turn a saloon into a supercar. But that's not the only thing Lotus got up to. In 1979, Chrysler approached Lotus to create a strict rally version of their Sunbeam 3-door hatchback. Lotus, as you might imagine, rather enjoyed the challenge. They took the rear-wheel drive hatchback and changed everything that matters. They stiffened the suspension, improved the anti-roll bars, and widened the transmission tunnel.
오 잠깐만. 길을 못 봤어.
Performance was increased by fitting a 2.2-litre version of the Lotus 911 slant 4-cylinder engine, resulting in an impressive 250
길을 못 봤어.
brake horsepower, up from a meager 105 on the original.
아, 이거 너무하잖아 여기는. 너무하잖아요.
The Lotus Sunbeam was revealed to the public in 1979 in Geneva to widespread
될 것 같은데?
praise in the motoring media.
오케이. 아니 뭐 길을 이렇게 개똥 같은 길을 자꾸 가라고.
More importantly, the Lotus Sunbeam saw racing success too.
아니 엔간히 개똥 같아야지. 이거는 너무하잖아. 이거
29th Lombard RAC Rally in his Sunbeam.
너무하는 거 아닙니까? 이건 너무하잖아. 이씨. 차가 그래 미친 듯이 돌아 자꾸. 꼼수로 별 3개 될 때 꼼수.
It almost makes you wonder
Okay.
if Lotus should do more conversions. It's a silly question, actually. Lotus should do more conversions. In fact, I'll call them right now.
여덟 번째
I
성능의
honestly
예술.
think these might be some of the most beautiful cars in the world. And the story of how it came about is, well, really British. Get in the car and let's get this segment.
제규어.
Jaguar is a bit of a favourite of mine. The company is almost 100 years old and was originally founded to build sidecars for motorcycles. But this is the car that really set the bar, I think. The 1961 E-Type. When he saw it, Enzo Ferrari called it the most beautiful car in the world. High praise indeed. He wasn't alone in his admiration. Accolades have followed this car ever since. It's been in movies, comics, games, and TV shows. Unlike some later cars in the marque, it wasn't just looks though. The E-Type was light and fast. It would do 153 miles an hour and stopped on innovative four-wheel brakes that were better than anything Ferrari or Porsche or even Mercedes-Benz had. It was solid too, with a design based on the D-Type that won the 24 Hours of Le Mans 3 years in a row.
At the round.
오, 여기 극커 보였네. 조금만 더 뒤로 가서. 그래서 좀 미리 줄여놔야겠네. 아 잠깐만, 여기 그냥 뚫고 가면 되잖아. 아이씨.
Anyone who owns an E-Type will tell you that the key to their
그냥 뚫고 가면
reliability is to
되잖아.
drive them regularly, as if you'd need the excuse.
길 안내를 제대로 해줘야지.
About 2,500 were built, and they're a common sight at auto shows, and surprisingly reasonably priced. All in all, an almost perfect Jaguar. The E-Type was the successor to the Le Mans winning D-Type. But what would that look like if Jaguar designed it today? In 2013, Jaguar answered that question with the F-Type Project 7, a spiritual successor to the E-Type, and designed from the ground up to be the purest, most enjoyable Jaguar yet. The
가자.
car's heritage is proudly displayed in the gorgeous D-Type curves and the distinctive aero hunch behind the driving position. But like the E-Type, it's not just a pretty face. Powered by a 5-litre V8 supercharged engine, with a fully aluminium body, it's blisteringly fast, with a 0 to 60 speed of 3.8 seconds and a top speed of 186 miles an hour. A car as beautiful as this
오.
must surely have been a carefully authored design. Actually, it started as a sketch by designer César Pieri, thrown together one Friday in his free time. Jaguar's design director, Ian Callum, saw the sketch in
아, 미안해.
a thumbnail on César's computer during a meeting and asked him what it was. The rest is history. Project 7s were built as both a success
뚫어버려.
type and as a
뚫어버려.
celebration
뚫어버려.
of Jaguar's victory at
아우.
Le Mans.
Turn around when it is safe to do so.
아.
I think I speak for all of us when I say thank heavens for César's Friday afternoon doodle.
이거 그냥 그 교차로에서 속도 줄여가지고 그것 때문에 안 되는데. 미끄러지지만 않았으면 됐는데. 미끄러져가지고 괜히. 왜 거기서 미끄러져가지고. 9번째인가요 이제? 거의 다 왔네?
We're almost done, but we've saved the good stuff for last. A spot of rallying in the most British car of them all. Get in, strap in, and let's nail this one.
이거 나 가지고 있는 차 아닌가?
There is one car built in Great Britain that is quite fairly considered one of the most influential cars of the century. It's a surprisingly spacious little city car with a side-mounted engine. It's an icon of popular culture. It's been built on every continent where there's a car factory. It's the Mini. The Mini Cooper S was built to be a performance machine with deeper engines, twin carburetors and front disc brakes. This scrappy little machine would go on to achieve more than 30 racing victories in the 1960s and 1970s. A Mini Cooper S flying number 37 placed first at the 1964 Monte Carlo Rally. Driven by Paddy Hopkirk and Henry Liddon, this was the last time all British crew would win the event. But not the last time a Mini would. At Monte Carlo in 1966, Minis took the first, second and third positions. They were all disqualified because they had dimming headlamps, not because they were winning everything in sight. In 1999, the Car of the Century Award was presented to the most influential car of the 20th century. The Mini came second. It was beaten by the Model T Ford. That's fair, I suppose. 5.3 million Minis would be sold, making it the most popular British car. And then in 2000, BMW resumed production of the Mini, breathing new life into the iconic marque. If the Mini of the 1960s had its sights set on the roads of Monte Carlo, the X-rayed Countryman has its eyes on something a little tougher.
오, 몬스터.
The deserts
Monster
and
energy.
terrain of the Dakar for starters. A wit once said that the only thing mini in this monster was the pedal.
PPL입니까 이거?
The X-rayed Countryman is much, much bigger than the Mini Cooper. It has to be. A stage of the Dakar demands literally tons of gear. You could call it a tank. It does rather sound like one. When Mini's X-rayed division set out to build this thing, they had one goal in mind: winning the Dakar. And they did, every year, from 2012 to 2015.
In 400 meters, turn right.
It's designed to be driven for 2 weeks over deserts and badlands, 5 kilometers above sea level. And it still handles like a hot hatch on a nice bit of dry airspace. Owners
yeah.
come and go. The heritage of a car like the Mini is more than who owns the keys to the shop. I fully expect to see Mini's wings flying for another century.
마지막.
This is quite the story. Bentley at Le Mans in the 1930s. Gentlemen racers, heroic driving, and a personal hero of mine. Take good care of the cars, though. Both of them are mine.
Bentley?
Bentley, a company founded in 1919 in Cricklewood, North London, and purchased by Rolls-Royce in the 30s. A company synonymous with both racing and luxury. Perhaps the best example I know of those two extremes of British engineering. For almost a century, every Bentley was hand-built to exacting standards. So at the beginning of the 21st century, when Bentley revealed their first mass-produced car, there were a great many questions. The car was the Continental GT, an elegant grand tourer that combined a racetrack pedigree with exquisite style and all the power you could need. The move to mass production has done nothing to blunt the Bentley experience. The 2017 Continental Supersport is responsive, fast, and beautifully designed.
미안해. 아, 이거 너무 많이 부셨는데 이거?
It brings together all-wheel drive, carbon fiber bonnet sides and side skirts to create the most powerful performance-focused car the company has ever built.
이거 좀만 갖다 박아도 그냥 이거 끝났겠는데? 살살 몰아야지, 살살.
Bentley's pedigree is racing, and the Bentley Continental embraces that. In 2007, a largely standard Continental Speed GT broke Bugatti's record for the flying kilometre on the frozen Baltic Sea. And then in 2011, they broke their own record. 205 miles an hour, both ways, on ice. Even when building these gorgeous Grand Tourers, Bentley is driven to excellence. Today, Bentley means modern, peerless luxury and
넘기
elegance.
직전이었네.
But that's far from the full story. A century ago, Bentley meant something else entirely. It meant Le Mans. In 1930, eccentric race team owner Dorothy Paget financed a rather special Bentley at the Le Mans. It was a 4.5-litre supercharged masterpiece, driven by Sir Henry Bentley Boy Birkin. It posted the fastest time on the day, but it failed to finish.
그런 차를 나보고 타라고요?
But what a race it was. Sir Henry's courageous driving forced Rudolf Caracciola's 7-litre Mercedes out of the race at the cost of his own victory. But in doing so, he handed the day to the Bentley Sixes, a gentleman racer indeed. Sir Henry knew he didn't have anything to prove. In 1929, the adventurer Mrs. Mary Victor Bruce had already driven the resolutely modern 4.5-litre Bentley at Montlhéry, setting distance, speed and endurance records. The Bentley's performance so annoyed Ettore Bugatti that he called it the world's fastest lorry. The blower had the
뭐야,
last
이게?
laugh, though. In 2012, it
뭐야,
was
이게?
sold at auction for over £4 million, which is more than enough to buy a Veyron and a racing truck, if you're keeping score.
자, 이렇게
Like I told them, can't make it
해서
from car
브리티쉬
culture around here
레이싱
without you in
그린을
it, can they? I'll let you know if they need you back.
끝이 냈습니다. 자, 휠 받은 것만 한번 다 써보도록 하죠. 웬일로 치마 GT3 하하. 자, 이번에 호라이즌 스토리 한 거는 여기서 또 마치고 저는 이제 또 다른 퀘스트로 다음 영상에서 보도록 할게요. 그 퀘스트까지 하고 나서 이제 호라이즌 3, 4, 호라이즌 포르자 호라이즌 4는 아마 마칠 것 같습니다. 이제 5가 나오니까 곧 정식 플레이가 되니까. 다음 영상에서 뵐게요.